Hello, this is Erin. Welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. I am recording live from Thrive Yoga and Fitness headquarters, which is my body work room. It's also where I have all my potions for facial analysis, which has been going great. I have been working with so many wonderful people and just letting them know the wonderful world of Tim Goyetch and his life-saving formulas. So I'm looking at about 100 different formulas that I have in my apothecary. So I feel like a kitchen witch because I am. So today I am continuing my talks about the 8 limbs of yoga. So the classical path of yoga from the out to the in. And the last 2 episodes, I talked about the yamas and I talked about the niyamas, which are just the first 2 limbs. The rest of the limbs, which are 6 more, I have to do some quick math, and I'm going to pick it up with asana, not to be confused with asana. So fun story, I chant a little ditty for my students to remember the 8 limbs of yoga and the yamas and niyamas. It's a pretty simple tune. It's yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. As we know from people chanting Yoga Sutras and just like little jingles that we hear from, I was born in 1984 and I can remember some jingles from when I was in the single digits, just my mom's driving her car and just hearing the radio go. So music and rhythm is a great way to remember, right? So anyways, I used to sing that, but I wanted to keep with the rhythm. So I'd say asana. And then I had one batch of yoga teacher trainees who I would say it's asana, but because I sang it asana, then they kept saying it that way. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? So it is not asana, it is asana. So asana literally means seat. And asana is the practice of doing movement or just sitting in a posture. It's a posture. Asana can also be translated as comfortable in a posture in your own seat. So asana is part of the limbs of yoga, and it's the one that's most known, isn't it? Right? Especially in the West. A lot of people think that that's all that yoga is asana, and they might not even know that word. So these postures, we apply things like drishti, which is eye-gazing points. We apply breath work, which is pranayama, which is the 4th limb. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we, in the Tristana method of Ashtanga, which is the style of yoga that I mainly study, though I've dabbled in other areas. Bandha, which is to an energetic lock or to bind yourself in. So we use these different techniques within the posture. And the posture is about being in your own body and connecting deeply to this vessel that we have and starting to become aware of the subtle energies that we have within. So again, the yamas and niyamas, we sort of go external, we go a little bit more internal, and then we come to asana. So we're in the manomaya kosha, which is the anamaya kosha, I don't want to misquote. Anamaya kosha is the food body, it's a physical body. So the asana help you to balance your body, help your body to feel good, twist and bend and stretch so that you have, your lymphatic system's going, your circulatory system's healthy. And for example, in the primary series of the Ashtanga Vinyasa series, it is meant to heal your digestive system. So the ancient yogis knew that if your body's not feeling good, if you're in pain, it's going to be really hard for you to sit on your asana and meditate. So, and then, we have these energies we need to direct. So when we're doing asana, if we are using some kind of format, like I really love the Tristana method from Ashtanga Yoga, primary series, secondary series, third series, or if primary, beginner series, intermediate series, advanced B, all of those are lovely and the poses can be amazing, but it is something that is not for everyone, I would say. But I would say that the Tristana method is for everyone. Directing your eyes so that they're still and your tongue stops moving in your mouth and you kind of like focus. And then the bandhas, right? A deep energetic lifting and connection to yourself. And then, of course, the breath, which helps to pull in the prana, while the bandhas help to direct the prana, and then the eyes fixated on a point helps you to kind of still your mind so that you're not leaking prana, which is your vital force, which I talked about in the first two podcasts. So if you have some kind of method where you are directing yourself and your attention's asana can be transcendent. It can help you to really, again, calm the chitta vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind and heart, right? The emotions as well are also counted as chitta vrittis, and be able to know who you are without distortion. So yeah, the asana helps us to feel good in our body, help to, take care of this beautiful flesh that we have, which encases this divine energy that we have. So that is asana. And then we go into pranayama. Prana is that vital force, right? Ayama is kind of like opposite of death or to lengthen. So extending our vital force. That's pranayama. But you might know it as breathing practices, or breath control. So typically when we're practicing yoga, we're breathing in and out through the nose. A very common way to breathe when we're practicing asana is Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi breath is victorious breath, and it's victorious over what? Over the mind. Ujjayi breath helps to create texture with your breath. So it creates a bit of sound. It creates a bit of feeling. I like to say it's like purring for yogis, Ujjayi, and it sounds like this. Not sure if that will come through the recording, but it sounded like an ocean wave. um, so again, this helps to guide the prana through you. It helps to pull it in, and it helps you to lengthen your vital force. There are many different kinds of pranayama. I am speaking a little bit more about the kind that I would do during a movement asana practice, but there's so many different kinds. Kapalabhati breath, Bastrika. Um, uh, there is Brahmari. It's not coming to me. I just actually got done meditating for an hour Vipassana style. So there's many, many different kinds of pranayama that you can do, and they all have different effects. For example, Nadi Shodhana helps to clean the little rivers inside of your body, also has a relaxing effect. Analoma Viloma helps to bring the right and the left hemispheres of the brain back online together. Brahmari helps to stimulate the immune system. Bastrika helps to detoxify and really get the guts going. The fire, it's also known as bellows breath to get fire going. And then there's skull shining breath, Kapalabhati, to really get the nerves kind of woken up in the body, but still stay parasympathetic. So those are just a couple of pranayams that I use, that I teach in my courses, that have different therapeutic effects. So 8 limbs of yoga, and just like taking some deep breaths, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, really helps you to ground down into your body, really helps you to let go of the outside world and just come back to yourself. So pranayama for the win. Even if you take it as a singular limb, and all of these limbs in the classical system of yoga are like this, you can just take that limb and you're like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. Just you wait until you plug it into the other 7 and just see how it works for you on the path of being a yogi. So that is pranayama. The next branch or rung or step of the classical form of yoga known as Ashtanga is Pratyahara. Pratyahara is reining in of the senses. When I spent my first time in India, one of my teachers, Dinesh sir, so who is going to be one of our faculty for our 2 weeks in India, I'm super excited. He said that, Pratyahara, it's a reining in of the senses, but what do you have to do to rein it in? First, you have to stimulate those senses, don't you? So if you stimulate them first, then you connect with them, then you can draw them in. And I thought, that's brilliant. So, and I think about that with Ujjayi because it's creating texture, it's creating sound. And so because it's sort of gotten your attention, now it sort of draws you in, and then you can sort of let go of distractions. Or I think of active release with our muscles, right? So we can activate and then let go. Activate, let go, activate, and then let go. And then we have a greater response from that. So when he said that about pratyahara, I was like, you know what? That's brilliant. Now, certainly there's other ways to do pratyahara, but I find that having a bit of stimulation and then a drawing in just to connect with that sense. So for example, if I'm going to withdraw my sense of smell, maybe at first I smell some, let's say like lavender. It's like, I really smell that. And then I'm going to let it go. I think that can be very powerful because I've stimulated it and I'm really connected with it, and then I can let it go. I suppose it can go the other way where you stimulate it and then you're like, I just want to be in a lavender field now or whatever. So it can go the other way. But if you practice vairagyam, non-attachment, then you can use it to connect to yourself and then as a reminder and then let it go. So pratyahara is a reining in of the senses. Then we come into dharana. So at this point, we come into dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So these upper three limbs of yoga, these are known as samyana or samyama, depending on the spelling. These are the upper three limbs, and these are all very deeply internal. This is like a kind of, we're moving towards meditation now. We're moving towards like the top rung, the sort of like a top shelf of the liquor of spirituality. So Dharana is one of my teachers. She was actually like an adjunct professor for one of the trainings I took. And she's like, Dharana is like, I used to make pancakes with my daughter. And we would make the batter. And then I would just pour it in one steady stream. And I said to my daughter, that's Dharana. And so what she meant by that is it is a steady stream of unbroken attention. Inward or on an object to where distractions, like they might come, but you're not being pulled into them. You're able to fixate. You're able to bind your mind to this one spot. There's a sutra, I may have quoted in the last 2 episodes because I'm really into the 3rd book of the Yoga Sutras, the Vibhuti-pada, but it is Desha Bandha Chittasya Dharana. And that means to bind your mind to one spot. And it's implying in the next sutras that that is where the magic happens. Certainly when we focus our mind, amazing things can happen. I don't know about you, but so I just did an hour of meditation. We have a Tuesday night meditation group here at the studio right now. And it's Vipassana style. It's not necessarily yogic, but meditate, whatever. It's all yoga. It's all union. So, after I meditate, my mind is so much more focused. I'm so much more dropped in. And I meditate every morning, but admittedly, I don't do an hour. It's hard for me to keep that up. I need community support. I'm a human. So, but after doing an hour of meditation, everything else is so much easier. It's like any resistance I have is non-existent because I have just deeply connected with myself, tapped into subtle energies. So it's like, I am not pulled in so many directions. Those things might still be there, but they're not bothering me so much, So dharana is a super awesome skill to develop. And everybody has it to some extent. Even if you're like, I'm like an ADHD squirrel, like you have some focus. You have to like be able to drive down the street. You have a certain amount of focus there, right? But when you really hone in your focus, I mean, amazing things happen. I just interviewed, and this podcast is going to be released before the next one, which will be the interview with my student Jay Ra, who is a High Fives Foundation athlete. And he does crazy stuff on a sit ski that like nobody else has done before. He's doing backflips and front flips and twists and 720s. Is that it? Is that the calculation? So he's like spinning a bunch of times. And he has to visualize and he really has to focus. So he has a high level of dharana to kind of like grab his mind and put it in that one spot, visualize it, and boom, make it come true. We can do the same thing in our lives with manifestation. So you focus on it, you want it, you picture, you visualize it, and you stay with it, it's yours. It has to be, right? Or some sort of form of it. Dharana unbroken, I've heard different teachers say different things, but most consistently I heard like 20 minutes. If you get like 20 minutes unbroken dharana, you start to go into dhyana, which is our next limb, the second to last limb, which is meditation. So meditation is when you start to go into this space where you become one with whatever object it is, or it's, rather than like the effort of focusing, it's just not there anymore. You're just in it. You're just existing. And there's no thoughts that are interrupting this space. It's not like thoughts don't exist. I want to make that clear with Dhyan, at least from my perspective. I speak from the perspective of me, not from like some, Samadhi, like level 20, Super Mario level. Like I'm here. I do my work too, but I can't speak to that. I'm going to speak from where I've been. Being in meditation, there is certain things that just like the thoughts are there, but you are just not interested in them. They're not hooking onto you. You're observing and you're just in this space of complete, like just within yourself. It is amazing. And Dharana and Dhyan go together. That's why in the upper three limbs, they call it samyana, because it's like I'm breaking them down separately, but they really all go together. So it's like Dharana, unbroken, becomes Dhyan, which is meditation, and then Samadhi, which is meditative absorption. Samadhi happens, and there's different levels. There's like 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, depending on who you ask. But when you get into that meditative absorption, and it's like blissful. It's like you've gone beyond that Anandamaya kosha, which is like your bliss body, and you are just in the Atman. It's like you're like, oh my gosh, that's right. I remember that I am amazing and that everything is beautiful and I am made of pure love, like that. Oh, I have gotten there a few times, or at least I think I have. It's really hard to describe. The only times I've gotten there is in Vipassana. I think I've been there once for sure, and then 2 other times, kind of. And again, there's like different levels of Samadhi. Depending on who you talk to, some people might say, yeah, like Samadhi happens more often than you think. I don't like to think that Samadhi is this like unattainable thing. I think there's certain levels of Samadhi that you reach, like this meditative absorption, where it's like, all right, you're there and like you're enlightened and like you're not coming back down. But there's other levels of Samadhi, like where I've been, where you're like, oh, like you're in this space, but then you're like, I'm in Samadhi. And then you're like, they're like, wrong. And then you they drop out of it. And then you're, concealment and revealment, then you're back in the game. You're like, okay, now I know what to shoot for. So, but then release the goals, right? So, Samadhi, again, there's different levels to it, this meditative absorption, but, I think that there's different levels and layers to this awakening stuff, to this spiritual journey. And for me, I had my first awakening when I was living in Japan in 2005, 2006. And so it's almost 20 years later, here I am. And, I experienced something where all my pain went away, and I just knew that there was something else except for suffering. And so ever since then, I've just dedicated my life to it with great devotion for my students and, myself too. I'm growing, I'm changing. And that's the beauty of being on a spiritual path, is that you get to heal while the people around you heal. And certainly being in service is part of this. And so I lead yoga teacher trainings. I lead life coach certifications. My life coach certifications are very special because it's from a yogic perspective, but it's not just that. I give you real tools. Like, I have a very organized course that has lots of very organized workbooks and pictures and activities. So people that work with me, you are under my wing. I'm like Mama Duck. And we're coaching each other. It's like a beautiful community that we form, and I'm guiding you through the whole thing. So whether you want it for personal development, or if you're interested in, to become a life coach, to build a business doing this, I will help you do that. I am so invested. I don't do tons of these courses per year. I do one. I do one yoga teacher training, and I do one life coaching course, because I'm so devoted to it. I'm dedicated. It takes a lot out of me because I love it. It's like children, I guess. My studios, my students are kind of like my version of children. So, being in service is so important. It keeps you on the path. It keeps you sharp. And if there's any time where you'd doubt and I don't know if I'm going to show up for this, there is something very special about being devoted to a community, to be in service, to where it's no, you will show up today. And, honestly, as I've been on this path, I think at first it was all for everybody else, except for, I was oh, I feel better when I do this, but it's mostly for everybody else. It's more for me. It's more for me because I know that it's if I'm taking care of me, it's that prosperity, Lakshmi energy. If my bowl is filled, everyone around me's bowl is filled. And I know I need to take care of me, and I need to invest in me, because then it's going to overflow. I understand the physics of that. I understand how the universe works. But there's some days where it's maybe I should just. But then I think of my students, and I think of my community. And there are some times where I'm all right, you know what? I'm going to go that extra mile. Just for you, boo. So I hope that you've enjoyed this 3-part series and exploration on the 8 limbs of yoga, the Ashtanga. I am releasing an interview the Friday after this with my student Jay. That's a 2-part. And then I have a couple other fun podcasts coming up. I hope that you enjoy. If you didn't know, I have some free master classes that are available. You can reach out to me, Erin at erincoach.com. I can hook you up with that, about the clearer formula, about relationship toolbox, and the drama triangle. So if you want some free resources, I can hook it up. Just send me an email. And for those of you who are interested in the work of Tim Goyetch, I have a group I manage that has about 3,000 people. It's the CIAS training group with Erin Garrity, and it's a free training. So if you're interested in that, you can again email me, Erin at erincoach.com. And again, I can give you the links to that. Lots of free resources. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by, and namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me, as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin at erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Thank you so much. Namaste.